having left the big city. I moved to a place where there's practically nothing. This is where I decided to buy my own land and start farming. Over the next 5 years, we will restore our farm, create numerous fields, and build our own production facilities. The main goal is to start earning hundreds of thousands of dollars monthly. If you're interested, subscribe to the channel and we'll get started. To start the restoration of the farm, the first thing I needed to do was buy it. So I drove my pickup truck there. And there it is. Well, it doesn't look as terrible as I imagined. Let's take a look around. There were many buildings on this vast plot, but as you can see, they are in terrible condition. This doesn't scare me at all because I'm here to create my own large farm. So I bought it. After the purchase, we were left with almost no money. Fortunately, there was old equipment on the farm, and I even managed to find one tractor. There was also an ATV, but it wouldn't start. So I decided to gather all the equipment in one place to see what we could use. Overall, everything I found was quite useful and in working condition, except for the broken ATV. Therefore, I decided to sell it. I drove up to it with the pickup truck, opened the tailgate, and loaded it into the truck. Then I headed to the store to sell it. A few minutes later, I was there. Carefully unloading it, I went into the store and successfully sold it. With the money earned, I bought a brand new chainsaw, which we would need for working with wood. Then I got back into the pickup and headed towards our farm, where I planned to try making money from firewood. Not far from our farm was a stream, with plenty of trees beyond it. Driving along the stream, I didn't find a bridge, so I decided to carefully cross it. Fortunately, we managed without any problems. Choosing a suitable tree, I cut it down. To fit it into our pickup, I carefully cut it into small parts. Then I loaded everything into the truck bed, secured the wood with straps, and set off to sell it. Arriving at the wood selling point, I removed the straps from the logs and sold them, making my first profit of just over $9,000. Then I went to the store, where with the money earned, I decided to buy a log trailer and a few fuel cans for the tractor. After putting the fuel cans in the pickup's trunk, I hitched the trailer and headed back to the farm. Upon arrival, the first thing I decided to do was demolish the old barn. This would be the first step in restoring our farm, as the new hangar would be useful for storing all our equipment. The demolition cost $10,000. I then decided to build a new hangar, which cost me $5,000. After it was built, I went inside and realized there was a lot of trash on the farm, so I started cleaning it up. Once all the trash was cleared, I moved all the found equipment inside the hangar except for the loader, as it didn't fit. Taking the car, I drove up to the tractor to unload the purchased fuel cans. I then carried them to the tractor. Sitting in the tractor, I started refueling it. After refueling, I decided to continue preparing firewood as we needed money. Hitching the trailer, I headed to the forest. Not far from the farm, I saw some good spruce trees and decided to go to them. Upon arrival, I parked the tractor and got to work. I cut down the first tree and carefully began clearing it of excess branches. After cutting off the top of the tree, I roughly measured the length of the logs for our new trailer. Surprisingly, despite my poor accuracy, the first log fit perfectly. So I decided to cut the rest of the logs to the same length. After loading the first tree, there was still quite a bit of space left on the trailer, so I decided to cut down another tree. Clearing it, I cut more logs to the same length and started loading them. When I finished loading, the trailer was completely full. I think this will be enough. So I carefully secured all the logs with straps to ensure nothing would be lost on the way. And then I headed to the selling point. Upon arrival, I got out of the tractor and removed the straps. After selling the logs, we earned a good amount of $21,000. I was very happy with the money earned as we needed it very much. After selling the firewood and earning a good amount of money, I headed back to the farm. Upon arrival, I unhitched the trailer and went to the store. I realized it was time to start working on the fields. Luckily, we already had most of the necessary equipment. Once I got to the store, before buying anything, I checked the crop prices to determine the most profitable one for us. It turned out to be corn. For planting corn, we needed a planter, so we bought one. Among all the options, the John Deere planter caught my eye. It was perfect for us in terms of power and price. We had to spend a little over $12,000 on it. After purchasing it, I hooked it up to the tractor, But I didn't rush back to the farm yet because we still needed to buy seeds. This could be done near the store itself. I drove over, opened the top covers of the planter, and filled it to the brim. The seeds cost us $2,500. Now we could head back to the farm as we had a lot of work ahead in creating our first field. Upon returning, the first thing I did was detach the planter as we needed the deep ripper to create our field. Luckily, I hadn't sold it, knowing we would need it eventually. Leaving the boundaries of our farm, I decided to look for a suitable spot to create our first field. Fortunately, this entire area belongs to us, so without much hesitation, I began marking the borders of the future field. It will be right in front of our farm. After finishing with the borders, I started plowing all the land within them. I hope this process won't take too much time. After about half an hour of work, this old tractor was still performing quite well. You can also see that it's getting dark, and according to the weather forecast, rain is expected. Because of this, I started to worry, hoping we could finish the work before it started. As time went on, I kept working, even though it had gotten so dark that I had to turn on the headlights since I could barely see the field. In the end, I wasn't destined to finish plowing the field that day, as unfortunately, our tractor ran out of fuel. Since the store was already closed at that hour, I decided to set up a tent on our farm and wait for the next morning. Waking up early the next day, the first thing I did was head to the field to assess the remaining work, since it was too dark to see the previous night. The tractor was still in the same spot, and it hadn't magically refueled itself, so I got into my pickup and drove to the store. I bought 7 fuel canisters, opened the tailgate, and carefully loaded them, securing them with straps. Then, I headed back to the tractor. Upon arrival, I unloaded a couple of canisters and started refueling the tractor. Once there were several dozen liters in the tank, I decided it was enough. So I got back into the pickup and returned it to the farm to keep it out of the way. Returning to the field, I immediately resumed my work, and after a few minutes, I finally completed the task. The final result was a freshly plowed field. Now it was time to plant the seeds. After attaching the planter, I drove onto the field and began planting. Since the planter was quite wide, this process shouldn't take much time, and after a little over 2 hours, the field was fully planted. There were still some seeds left in the planter, so I decided to save them. Now, it was time to wait for our corn to start growing. So, I decided to focus on making money, since we don't have much of it right now. Since we only have one way to earn money, we are returning to cutting firewood. For this, I took a log trailer and went back to the place where we had already been cutting trees. After cutting down a tree, it fell on our trailer, but this didn't hinder us from cutting it into smaller pieces. After loading it onto the trailer, I immediately started cutting the next tree. Once I filled the trailer to the top, I secured the logs with straps and headed to the selling point. On the way, I noticed that it started to rain and realized that we were really lucky to finish the work in the field in time. Meanwhile, I reached the selling point and sold all the wood, earning $25,000. I figured that one trailer wasn't enough, so I went back for more wood. We received roughly the same amount of money for the second trailer, which is quite enough, so now we're heading to the farm. Upon arrival, I realized that we have more of our own land in front of the farm, next to the field where a lot of grass grows, so I thought it would be sensible to deal with that, since it means extra money. So, let's not waste any time and go to the store to buy a lawnmower. At the store, I went to the mower section and chose one of the cheapest options for $2,000. After buying it, we returned to the farm and started working. I will stick to the same principle as when creating the field. First, we marked out the area where we would be mowing the grass, and then we started mowing within these boundaries. Personally, this method is the most convenient for me. In the middle of the process, we ran out of fuel in the tractor again, so we took the pickup truck to refuel it. After refueling, we continued working. As you can see, this process took quite a bit of time since I finished only when it was already dark outside. And since I didn't want to work in the dark, we decided to rest, leaving the remaining work for the next day. The next morning, we went straight to the store. Passing the field, I noticed that our crops were already gradually growing, which was encouraging. In the store, we bought an old windrower to gather all the mowed grass into piles, as well as a couple of fuel cans for a full refuel of our tractor. since I was tired of refueling it little by little. Back at the farm, I quickly gathered the grass into small piles for easy work with the baler, so immediately after that, we went to the store to buy a baler. It cost us $17,000, a great price for such equipment. By this point, I was extremely tired from working with the grass, but there was no turning back, so I slowly baled all the grass. This took me almost 3 hours, but fortunately, we finished baling all the grass. If you think that's the end, you're mistaken. Next, all the bales needed to be wrapped, and for that, I needed the simplest bale wrapper. By evening, all the bales were wrapped in film, which made me very happy. So I went to rest after such a hard day's work. For the next 3 months, I decided to wait until our corn in the field was ripe and the grass in the bales fermented into silage. By the end of these 3 months, I thought they would be ready for sale, but we still needed something to transport them, so we got into the tractor and headed to the store. There, we needed to buy a universal trailer that would work both for transporting bales and for harvesting. I chose this simple option, which costs $14,000, so I bought it along with several cans of fuel. After pouring all the diesel into the tractor, we took the trailer and headed to the farm for the bales. Upon arrival, I began carefully rolling them and loading them onto the trailer, securing them with straps. After loading the first trailer, we could head to the selling point, as I was eagerly looking forward to seeing how much we would earn. When we arrived, we unfastened the straps and slowly moved the bales one by one onto the train car. In total, we earned almost $30,000 from selling the bales, which I think is quite good. Returning to the farm, we used the earnings to build a silage pit, as simply selling the corn would not be profitable. We will make silage from it. After building the pit, I thought it was time to start harvesting. But for that, we needed to put sides on the trailer and buy a combine harvester. So let's build a workshop, then drive the trailer into it and install the sides. As you can see, the trailer is now quite functional. Now it's time for the header, so we're heading to the store. At the store, I started selecting the equipment we could use to harvest our crop. I liked an old header, so we bought it for $15,000. After hooking the header to the tractor, I immediately went to the field where I left it and then went to pick up the trailer. After retrieving it, I began assembling the entire harvesting setup. After some adjustments, I managed to get it all together. The moment I had been waiting for had finally arrived. After several months on this farm, I was now harvesting on my own field with my own equipment. I was very pleased about it. Within 10 minutes, the trailer was already full of chopped corn. The old header was working well. After attaching the trailer to the tractor, we headed to the silage pit. Upon entering it, I opened the right side and began unloading at a leisurely pace. After successfully unloading the entire trailer, we returned to the field, where we hooked up the header again and continued working. After a while, half of the crop had already been harvested. This header was simply excellent. I did not regret buying it. When we brought another trailer to the pit, it was already difficult to unload, so after unloading the corn, I decided to compact it, to make it easier to drive in next time. After driving around a few times with the tractor, I went back to finish harvesting the field, where it seemed to me that there were still a few more trailers to go. In the end, after 4 hours, the field was completely harvested. Now we just needed to compact all the forage in the silage pit and cover it with a tarp. After leaving all the equipment, I went to the silage pit and started compacting our forage. Soon, the compacting reached its maximum, after which we covered the pit. Once all the tasks were complete, we gathered all the equipment and took it back to the farm. After parking the tractor, I went to rest, as we had done a lot of work today. The next morning, I noticed that a lot of equipment had accumulated on the farm, and there wasn't much space for it, so I decided to build something. But we didn't have enough money in the balance, so without wasting time, I took the trailer and went to our workshop to upgrade it. After that, I went to our bales, carefully rolling them onto the trailer, securing them with straps, and headed to the selling point. Upon arrival, I removed the straps and carefully moved the bales onto the train car. After selling them, we earned a total of $27,000. I think this will be enough for my plans. So we returned to the farm. Once back, I decided to demolish the old building next to our barn and build a new shed where we could store all our equipment. Building the new shed cost us $12,000. After completing the construction, I began moving all the equipment that didn't fit in the barn, as well as the auger we found on the farm. After arranging all the equipment in its place, I also parked the tractor. We still had a little money left, so I decided to demolish the old abandoned house, spending almost $10,000, and I will move our tent there. In the future, we will build our house there. That's it. All the tasks are completed. The harvest is gathered, the bales are sold, and we just need to wait for the silage to ferment. Waking up early in the morning, I realized that the silage pit was still not ready. So I decided to collect the remaining bales and sell them to earn some money since our account balance was quite low. Without wasting any time, I rushed to get the tractor. After getting in, I attached the trailer and headed to the bales. Arriving at the bales, I carefully loaded them onto the trailer one by one. Once the trailer was loaded to its maximum capacity, I secured the bales with straps and slowly made my way to the selling point to avoid losing any bales on the way. As soon as I reached the destination, I parked the trailer as close to the selling point as possible. Then I unstrapped the bales and carefully unloaded them. The payment for the bales was quite good. After selling them all, we had a decent amount of money in our balance. From this sale, we managed to earn just over $40,000. I'm very pleased with this income as we will need this money soon. On the way back to the farm, I decided to check the state of the silage in the pit. It was still not ready, but it wouldn't take much longer. So let's prepare for its collection. For this, we head to the workshop to add sideboards to our trailer. And with that, the first step of preparation for collecting the silage is complete. Moving on to the second stage of preparation. To load the silage into the trailer, we'll need an auger pipe, so we head to the store to buy one. After finding a suitable option, we purchase it and also get a couple of fuel cans to refill our tractor. So, the first thing I did was refuel the tractor. Once it was refueled, I attached the auger pipe and headed back to the farm. Upon returning, all the equipment for collection was ready, as was the silage in the pit. So I took the tractor with the auger pipe and went to the pit. Upon arrival, I removed the tarp and positioned the auger pipe next to the silage. The next step was to drive the trailer underneath it. Once the trailer was positioned, we turned on the auger pipe and began loading. The process went smoothly, and within a few minutes, our trailer was fully loaded with silage, which holds 18,000 liters. I can't wait to see how much we'll earn from this. Arriving at the selling point, we unloaded our silage and received almost $9,000 for it. Honestly, I expected more, but we have no choice, so we returned and continued transporting silage for sale. After selling another trailer of silage, our balance was already $67,000, which is quite good. Since it was already dark, I decided to stop for the day. So we headed back to the farm, parked the trailer, went to our tent, and called it a night. Waking up the next day, we had a decent amount of money, and I thought it was the perfect time to build our first production facility. So, without wasting any time, I took the tractor and went to find a suitable location for the production site. Not far from where I had been cutting wood, I decided to build a sawmill to produce pallets, which we could sell for much more than just plain wood. The sawmill cost us $40,000 to build and another $1,000 to set it up. In the end, it turned out pretty well. We might add more details in the future, but for now, I'm happy with it. So, let's try to start producing our first pallets. To do this, we return to the farm to get the trailer for transporting logs. After picking it up, we head to the spot where we previously cut down trees. First, we remove the old stumps that were obstructing the tractor's path closer to the trees. Then, we start preparing the logs. After cutting down the first tree, we carefully remove the excess branches and cut the tree into logs of the desired length. Once those are loaded, we move on to the second tree, repeating all the steps. This was enough to fill the entire trailer. We secure the logs with straps and head to our sawmill, where we unload all the logs. Seeing that we only had 6,000 liters of logs at the production site, I realized that one trailer load wouldn't be enough, so I immediately went back for a second load. Cutting down 2 more trees, I loaded them onto the trailer and returned to the sawmill. Now we have enough wood to properly start production. I think this will yield a large batch of pallets. With production started, all we had to do was wait, so I decided to return to selling silage. We head back to the farm, grab the needed trailer, and then go to our loading pipe. Parking the trailer under it, we start the loading process. Once the trailer is full, we head to the selling point, sell all the silage, and continue this process. However, after some time, rain interrupted us, so I decided to call it a day for silage work. We head back to the farm. I decided to build several greenhouses. Luckily, we have enough money for this, but an old building was in the way, so I demolished it, which cost me almost $2,000. Now we can build our greenhouses here without any problems. After setting up the first one, I realized that a tree, which had obviously been growing there for a long time due to its size, was obstructing the second greenhouse. Since our sawmill is nearby, it made sense to cut down this tree and move the logs to our production site. So, that's what we did. We carefully cut down the tree, removed the branches, and left only the logs, which we transported to our sawmill. Now we could build the second greenhouse, which I did, paying another $10,000. To make our greenhouses operational, we needed water, so I went to the store to buy a water tank. At the store, I chose a large tank, which cost us almost $16,000. After picking it up, we headed to the fire hydrant near our farm. Once the tank was full, we drove to the greenhouses, where I transferred all the water to the reservoir of one of the greenhouses, and then started growing strawberries in it. As you can guess, one tank wasn't enough for 2 greenhouses, so we immediately went to get a second one. It's a good thing I bought a large tank. Otherwise, I would have had to spend even more time fully watering the greenhouses. After filling up with water, I returned to the farm and filled the second greenhouse, after which we also started growing strawberries in it. Since it was already evening and there was no more work left for the day, we went to rest. The next day, I decided to focus on our field. I think it's time to cultivate it since we harvested the crops a few months ago. Taking the cultivator, I went to the field and started working. The whole process was monotonous and uninteresting, but fortunately, our equipment didn't let us down and performed its job perfectly. After some time, the field was fully cultivated, and now it's completely ready for planting. This time I decided to sow wheat, but for that, we needed a seeder, and we didn't have enough money for it. So I had to go back to selling silage. To earn the necessary amount of money, I sold 2 full trailers, and I think that will be enough to buy a seeder and seeds for it. Heading to the store, I found a good option for $6,000. I also decided to buy a couple of fuel cans, but accidentally bought too many. After filling the tractor's tank to full, I carefully moved the extra cans to the side of the building and left them there. This will be our reserve. Near the store, there was a seed selling point, so I went there. Arriving, I opened the seeder and bought seeds, spending almost $2,000 as well as fertilizer for another $3,000. Then, I immediately headed to our field. Arriving at the field, I immediately got to work. Our seeder was quite wide, so I figured it wouldn't take too long, and I hoped that the seeds and fertilizer we bought would be enough for the entire field. Fortunately, the seeder didn't use up too much, and we had just enough seeds. After finishing the planting, I found a suitable spot for the new seeder and left it there. Then I decided to focus on making money, since we didn't have much left after buying the seeder. So I went back to selling silage, which earned me an additional $8,000. Next, I decided to visit our sawmill to check on things there. Upon arrival, I saw that the first batch of pallets was ready, which made me very happy. I immediately went to remove the sides of the trailer to easily sell them. A few minutes later, I was back at the sawmill loading the pallets onto the trailer. By the time I finished loading, it was already dark, so I decided to go to sleep and sell the pallets the next day. Waking up in the morning, I immediately ran to our tractor, eager to find out how much we would earn from our first batch of pallets made at our own production facility. Arriving at the sales point, I was pleasantly surprised. We earned $23,000 for one trailer load, which is much more than just selling the wood. This was very encouraging. The sawmill turned out to be a very profitable investment, so I immediately went back for a second batch of pallets. Fortunately, we still had plenty. After selling 2 more trailer loads, our balance was already $97,000. I came up with a plan on how to spend all this money, but to make it work, we needed to earn even more. So I decided to sell all the available goods we had at the moment. First, I went to get the remaining pallets, then moved on to selling the strawberries. After finishing with the pallets, I arrived at the greenhouses and saw that we didn't have much in terms of strawberries, but I still decided to sell them to see how much we could make. I loaded the pallets, secured them with straps, and headed to sell them. In the end, we made about $7,000, which isn't bad, considering all they need is water, which we get for free. Now that everything is sold, we're back to dealing with silage again. After selling a couple of trailer loads of silage, we head back to the farm, since we now have a pretty decent amount of $140,000, which is enough to execute what I have in mind. First, I wanted to focus on animals, and for that, we needed to demolish the old buildings, which cost us $15,000. On those spots, we'll build new pens, starting with a chicken coop. However, there are still a couple of trees in the way, so we'll have to cut them down. And we'll take the resulting logs to our sawmill. After quickly cutting them down, we chop them into smaller logs and take them to the sawmill. Then we return and finally build our chicken coop for $18,000. But we won't buy the chickens just yet. We'll wait until the wheat in our field is ready to harvest. Now, let's continue since we still have a fairly large area near the farm. I think it would be wise to create another field there. But before that, I'd like to upgrade our equipment, and luckily, we have enough money for that. So we head to the store. I decide to start by buying a new tractor from John Deere, the most expensive purchase so far, and along with it, I get a brand new subsoiler for $10,000. Now our work in the field will be much faster. After the purchases, we could return to the farm, but I wasn't in a hurry to create the new field since I was already quite tired and would prefer to take on that task tomorrow. After a good rest, I immediately took the tractor in the morning and got to work. First, as always, we marked the boundaries of our field. After 30 minutes, they were set, and we ended up with a large field. Now we start plowing all the land within these boundaries. With the new tractor, the work goes much faster than before, and I'm really glad I bought it. When I finished creating the field, I was thrilled with the final result. By this time, it was already the afternoon, so I decided not to waste any time and get it planted. So we take our planter, which still had some corn seeds left, and get to work. Thanks to the tractor's power, the process went much faster than before, which caused me to accidentally destroy some crops in the neighboring field. After planting nearly half of the field, the seeds in the planter ran out, so I had to head to the store. After buying seeds for $2,500, we immediately returned to the field to finish the job. It took us about another hour. We've done a lot of work today, but I also want to build a house. We have $20,000 in the account, which, as you can imagine, won't be enough. So we need to earn several more tens of thousands of dollars. To do this, we head to the silage and sell almost all of it. Along with that, I decided to sell some strawberries as well. Since it was already getting dark, I quickly removed the sides from the trailer, headed to the greenhouses, carefully loaded a few pallets, and went to sell them. After the sale, we finally had enough money for a proper house. We returned to the farm, sell the tent we no longer need, and build our new house, which cost us $50,000. Wow, I'm just thrilled with it. Waking up in the morning, I immediately headed to the fields where I saw that the wheat field had already sprouted. It would be great to harvest the crop, but we need a combine harvester and a header for that. Since we don't have any money in the account, we need to go earn some. First, we'll sell our strawberries, which have been accumulating for several months. We take the tractor with a trailer and drive to the greenhouses. There are quite a lot of strawberries, so we carefully load the strawberry pallets onto the trailer, gradually securing them with straps. When the trailer is full, we head to the selling point. After unloading the strawberries, we made a decent profit, just over $20,000 from one trailer. Since I want to sell all the strawberries we have, we head back to the greenhouses, load the remaining pallets, and go sell them. After selling the second trailer of strawberries, we have $40,000 in the account. But I think that might not be enough to buy a new combine harvester, so we'll need to earn a bit more. On the way back from the selling point to the farm, I thought about stopping by the sawmill, as there are only a couple of pallets of strawberries left near the greenhouses, and I don't feel like hauling such a small load. Arriving at the sawmill, we see that a batch of pallets is ready for sale, so we load them onto the trailer, secure them with straps, and head to sell them. We earned another $26,000 from the pallets. I think that should be enough now. On the way back, I stopped by the store where I had already picked out a new combine harvester and header for it, so we head back to the farm to drop off our tractor. After leaving the tractor, I noticed that the cornfield is almost ripe and will soon need to be harvested. So, without wasting any time, we head to the store where we buy the combine harvester and header, which cost us $43,000. Getting into the combine harvester and picking up the header, we drive back to the farm. Since it's already evening and too late to start working in the field, we leave the combine harvester and take the tractor with the tank, as I've been wanting to bring water to the greenhouses for a while. After filling the tank with water, we head to the greenhouses and fill their reservoirs. Then we can go rest. Waking up early in the morning, we immediately head to the combine harvester to start working in the field as soon as possible. As I leave the farm, I see that the corn has already sprouted and is also ready for harvest. Now we have 2 fields ready for harvesting, and we need to collect them as quickly as possible. Arriving at the wheat field, we lower the header, start it, and begin harvesting the wheat. After about half an hour, the combine harvester's storage is full, so we run to the tractor and attach our first trailer, which has been sitting idle for so long. After loading it, we head to the chicken coop, where we dump the grain into the feeder. As you may remember, I was planning to buy chickens as soon as we got the first wheat. Now we can finally buy a couple of dozen chickens and 1 rooster. We return to the field, get back in the combine harvester, and continue harvesting the wheat. After unloading the second trailer of wheat into the feeders, they were completely filled, but there was still a little wheat left in the trailer, and we need to figure out where to put it, as well as the rest of the harvest, since there's still more in the field. So I decided to build a small grain elevator. There was already one on the farm, but it wasn't operational, so I demolished it, which cost me some money. But the most important thing is that we're building a new elevator in its place, which costs us another $11,000. After that, we finally unload the remaining wheat from the trailer into it. Now that we have a place to store the entire harvest, I decided to get a larger trailer, but to do that, we need to reattach the sides. As soon as I did that, we head back to the field, where the hired worker is already continuing the harvest. All that's left for us to do is drive alongside and unload the harvest from the combine's tank into the trailer. To avoid waiting and wasting time until the trailer is full, I decided to take what we already have. By the second half of the day, the wheat harvest was completed. We park the combine near the hangar and take the remaining wheat to the elevator. Since we've already harvested the wheat, it's time to harvest the corn. But first, we need to clear out the silage pit, so we go to sell the remaining silage. After selling the silage, we return to the farm, take our second tractor, attach the header, and drive to the trailer where we assemble the setup for corn harvesting. The process goes quite quickly, and within 15 minutes, the trailer is full. We detach the header and take the trailer to the pit, remove the loading pipe from there, and unload our forage. After that, we return to harvesting. Although loading the trailer with forage was quick, going back and forth is very tiring. This work was very long and tedious, and I was doing it until evening. Then it started raining, which meant the workday was over and I could go rest. Waking up early in the morning without wasting time, I returned to the forage work to finish it as soon as possible. After 2 hours, there was a good pile of forage in the silage pit, but it was too steep to drive up properly. So we take the tractor and start compacting it. After compacting the forage a bit, we return to harvesting. After bringing in a few more trailer loads, the silage pit was full, meaning it was ready for further compacting. So we take our tractor and begin compacting the forage. After about half an hour, the forage was fully compacted, and now we can cover it with a tarp and wait for it to fully ferment into silage. So the silage pit is full, but we still have about half the cornfield left, and we need to harvest it somehow. Since we fortunately have a combine harvester, we just need to buy a header for it. So we take this header back to the farm and leave the trailer. It will still come in handy. Then we get into the combine harvester and head to the store. Upon arriving, we buy the most suitable header for us and then immediately head to the field where we continue harvesting the corn. The process went much faster, and within 30 minutes, the combine's storage was full. We drive up to the trailer we left here earlier and unload all the contents. To speed up the process, I decide to hire a worker for the combine while I drive alongside, collecting the harvested corn. After filling the trailer a little more than halfway, I went to the selling point, as I was curious to see how much we would get for it. Upon arriving and unloading the corn, we received $13,000 for the partial trailer load. I'm not even sure if that's a lot or not for that amount of corn. We return to the field and continue harvesting the corn ourselves. After finishing the entire field, we had about 16,000 liters of corn in the trailer, which is pretty good. Since it was already evening, we parked our combine by the hangar, as we wouldn't need it anymore. Then we took the tractor and went to sell the remaining harvest, nearly 16,000 liters of corn. Arriving at the selling point, we earned $20,000. On the way back to the farm, I noticed that the fuel gauge was showing a low level, so I immediately headed to the store to refuel the tractor, as we had left a couple of cans by the edge of the building. There was no need to buy anything, so we refueled and returned to the farm. Once back, I thought about building another greenhouse, but a tree was in the way. So we cut it down and took it to the sawmill. Now, in its place, we build a new greenhouse, which costs us $10,000. Now we need to get it up and running, but for that, we need water. I think I'll handle that tomorrow. So for now, it's time to go to sleep. Upon waking up, we immediately take the tractor and tank and head to the fire hydrant, where we fill the tank with water. Then we return to the greenhouses and evenly distribute the water among the 3 greenhouses, and we start strawberry production. Since we don't have much work to do, I decided to focus on making money. So we take the tractor, remove the sides from the trailer, and go to sell the strawberries, which have grown quite a lot during the time we spent in the fields. After loading all the available strawberries, the trailer was full. We head to the selling point, where we earned $20,000 for the trailer of strawberries. Now we head to the sawmill and start selling the pallets. After selling about 4 trailer loads of pallets, we had almost $150,000, which is pretty good. I'm glad I built this production. It brings in a very good income. After finishing with the pallet sales and returning to the farm, I decide to buy a few more dozen chickens, which cost us $2,000. Since we still have a decent amount of money left, I decide to buy another plot of land, specifically the one where our production is located. This cost us $85,000, and on this plot, I want to create another large field. For this, we run to the tractor, attach the deep ripper, and go to mark out the boundaries of our new field. After marking the boundaries of the field, this is what it should look like. Now, we'll fill in these boundaries. Due to the size of the field, I only managed to finish creating it by evening. Now it's time to rest. Waking up in the morning, I decide to build a windmill, since we'll now have much more harvest than before, and I don't want to sell it for peanuts. So we place the windmill not far from our fields, which costs us $20,000. Since we don't have any wheat yet, we buy some for $2,000 and start flour production. The windmill is working, so now we can move on to working in the field. We still have 2 sections of the field to plow, so without wasting any time, we jump into the tractor, attach the cultivator, and start working. We'll hire a worker for the first field, and for the second field, I'll go myself, taking the old tractor and the deep ripper. The work was slow but steady. Since I'm not working alone now, I think it won't take us too much time. The worker we hired finished his job faster, so I called him over to help us. That's it. The work is done, and now all 3 fields are ready for planting. For this, we'll need a seeder. After attaching it, we see that we have very few seeds left, so we head to the store to buy more, and at the same time, pick up a couple of fuel cans for the tractor. After buying seeds and refueling the tractor, we head to the field where we leave the hired worker to continue working. I take the second tractor and planter and also head to the field, but we'll be planting corn instead of wheat. While working, I noticed that the fuel indicator on my tractor was almost empty, so I left the worker, took the pickup, and went to the store, where I bought a couple more fuel cans. After refueling the tractor, we continued the work. After some time, the first field was completely planted, with 2 more to go. Since I wanted to finish all the field work by the end of the day, we needed to speed up. So I decided it would be wise to plant the third field with half wheat and half corn. A few minutes later, our hired worker finished his job and joined us. Together, we started working on the last section, and by around 7 p.m., the work was completely done. So we moved all the equipment back to the farm, and with a sense of accomplishment, we went to rest. Waking up early in the morning, it was a beautiful day, so I decided to focus on making some money. First, I decided to check on our production facilities. In the greenhouses, a lot of strawberries had grown, which would need to be sold. Next, I went to the sawmill, where I saw quite a few pallets and people who had come to buy them directly from the sawmill. This was a big plus for us, since it meant we wouldn't have to go anywhere to sell them. However, there was one problem. We didn't have anything to load all these pallets with, so I had no choice but to head to the store to buy a loader for the job. Arriving at the store, I chose a suitable option, which cost us $25,000. I also bought a pallet fork for it. We picked up our purchases from the store and headed back to the farm. Upon returning, we began loading all the pallets onto the trucks. The process wasn't difficult, and fortunately, it didn't take me much time. From selling all our pallets, we earned an additional $33,000, which was pretty good. After selling all the pallets, I decided to return to the strawberries to sell them as well. But first, I wanted to use the money we earned to buy a special trailer that would be much more convenient for transporting pallets than the old one. So, we take the tractor and head back to the store, where we buy a trailer with auto loading, which was exactly what we needed, costing us nearly $20,000. After the purchase, we head back to the greenhouses where, thanks to the auto loading feature, we quickly load all the strawberries onto the trailer. As you can see, now we can do this with little effort and, most importantly, without wasting much time. After loading, we calmly head to the sales point. We earned a little over $15,000 for all the strawberries, which is an excellent result. Returning to the farm, I noticed our windmill. Since we've already sold everything, now I want to focus on it. Since there was still some wheat grain left in storage, I loaded up one trailer of wheat for flour production so that we could earn a bit more from it than just selling it directly. So we unload all the wheat from the trailer into the mill, where the processing has already begun. Now we just have to wait for everything to turn into flour. Since we finished with the windmill, I then ran to the silage pit, which by this time should have been full of silage. Removing the tarp from one side, I saw that all the forage we had prepared had already fermented, so all the silage was ready to be sold. Without thinking too long, we grabbed the auger and start loading it into the trailer. After selling 1/3 of the silage, we had nearly $85,000 in the account, which was pretty good. I was just thrilled at how well we had developed our farm, and now we were making tens of thousands of dollars with little effort. I'm not going to stop there. I want to sell all the silage today, so I won't have to come back to it in the future. This work took me longer than I initially thought, as I was already loading the last trailer of silage in complete darkness. It was so dark that I had to turn on the headlights, but luckily, after the sale, I was done with this task, and we had $160,000 in our account. I was very pleased with such a large sum of money, so after returning to the farm, I calmly went to rest. The next morning, I was ready to spend all our money and decided to build something on a large scale. I remembered that not far from the store, I had seen a couple of cliffs and large rocks, so I thought about building a quarry. But first, I needed to find a suitable location. Upon arriving, I found the perfect spot with a large cliff, so I immediately began developing it. After building 3 small mines, I started improving the area, which included lighting, fencing the entire territory, and a small house for the workers. We spent about $45,000 on all of this, but these aren't all the expenses for this quarry, as we'll only be expanding in the future. After building the production site, we needed machinery to work there, specifically a heavy loader and transport for carrying the stones. So we head to the store, which fortunately isn't far away. At the store, I purchase a bulldozer and a bucket for it, costing us nearly $70,000. Afterward, we drive it to our site. We have just over $50,000 left, and I think that might not be enough for a truck and trailer, so we need to earn some more money. First, I decided to sell strawberries, earning $7,000 from them. Then, I went on to sell flour from the mill, which brought in another $20,000. Returning to the farm, I noticed that a lot of equipment was just sitting idle, so I decided to sell it, specifically everything related to grass harvesting. After selling it, we earned a little over $10,000. Now we have almost $100,000 in our account, which is much better, and I think it will be enough to buy a truck with a trailer. We head back to the store, and the first thing we buy is a trailer that can handle the weight of the stones. This option costs nearly $40,000. Next, we needed to buy a sufficiently powerful truck to go with it. We opted for an old American truck, which cost us another $60,000. Great, now we can pick up all our purchased equipment and head to our large quarry, where we begin working on loading the stones at a steady pace. After loading the first mined stone into the truck, I decided to go sell it to see how much we could earn from it, even though there wasn't much of it. By selling less than half the trailer, we managed to earn $7,000, which wasn't bad at all. After all, we're getting the stones absolutely for free. However, there was a downside. It takes a long time to mine them. So I decided to focus on other tasks, specifically working on our production facilities. They were all running low on materials, with the sawmill needing wood and the greenhouses requiring water. I decided to start with the greenhouses, so we took the tanker and went to fill it up. Once the tanker was filled with water, we headed to the greenhouses, where we distributed the water evenly across the reservoirs. After that, we attached a trailer and took the remaining wheat from storage to the mill, where we unloaded it for flour production. The only task left was the sawmill, so we took our wood trailer and went to cut down trees. After cutting down 2 trees, we trimmed the branches and divided them into smaller pieces, which we then loaded onto the trailer and secured with straps. Next, we simply transported them to the sawmill. Upon arrival, we saw that a batch of pallets was ready for sale. So, let's take care of that. We earned $35,000 from selling the pallets. Returning to the farm, there wasn't much work left, so I also decided to sell the strawberries. After selling them, we head home to rest, as today was quite a busy day. Waking up the next morning, I decided to head to our quarries. Since we earned some money yesterday, I decided to build another quarry to speed up the stone extraction process. It cost me $5,000, which isn't much considering it will pay off fairly quickly. After that, I began loading the stone that had accumulated overnight. Getting into the bulldozer, I slowly started scooping up the stone and carefully unloading it into the trailer. After some time, all the stone on the site was loaded, so I got into our truck and headed to the selling point. On the way, I admired the truck. Despite its age, it handles such a heavy load without any problems. Upon arrival, I sold all the stone, earning $25,000 for this trailer. Now, I am completely sure that building the quarry was worth it. Excellent income. On the way back, I decided to stop by the farm and do some upgrades to the truck in our workshop. After its transformation, we returned to the quarry. After parking the truck in its place, I decided to return to the farm and focus on selling all our goods. We had accumulated pallets of strawberries again, as well as pallets at the sawmill. After spending some time on this, our balance increased, and now we have just over $120,000, which makes me very happy. With the money we earned, I decided to buy a gold mining production facility, which cost us $30,000. To operate, it required stone, water, and gas. From the listed items, the only thing we didn't have was gas, so we also bought a gas production facility for $25,000. To produce gas, we needed silage, and fortunately, we already have a silage pit. We just need to harvest the crop and fill it. Returning to the farm, we still had a good amount of money in our account, so I decided to build another greenhouse to expand our strawberry production, which grows quite quickly and brings in a good profit. This cost us $10,000. After a few months, our corn harvest on the field ripened. The first thing I want to do is fill our silage pit, so that, as you already know, we can process the silage into gas in the future. So we take the old harvester, attach the trailer, and head out to the field to start harvesting. The entire process is, as always, monotonous and quite long. After filling the first trailer with fodder, we go to unload it into the silage pit. But before that, we move the fodder pipe that was blocking the way. After unloading the entire trailer, we return to the field and continue working. After a few hours of work, I finally managed to successfully fill the silage pit with fodder. We can now safely return the harvester to the farm and start compacting all the fodder in the pit. This process took me quite a bit of time, but I managed to get it done and covered it with a tarp. I decided to harvest the remaining corn with the combine. So we take the combine and hire a worker to help with the harvest. Now, all I have to do is drive alongside and collect the corn into the trailer. After harvesting, we park the combine in its place, get into the tractor, and unload the last trailer of corn into the bin. Today was a rather tough day, so let's head to bed. Waking up the next month, I saw that our wheat harvest had ripened, which means it's time to harvest it as well. For this, we take our combine again and head to the wheat field this time, lower the header, and start working. At the same time, we bring our tractor here because when the combine's tank is full, we extend the auger pipe and unload all the harvested crop into the trailer. We then continue the harvest by hiring a worker and just wait until the next bin in the combine is full. After the first trailer of wheat is full, we take it to our bin and successfully unload it. In the future, we will transport this wheat to the mill. Continuing the work, after about 3 hours, the first large section of wheat was fully harvested. But that's not all. We move on to the second section and keep working. About an hour later, we take the full trailer of wheat to our mill, and by late evening, the work in the field was done. So we bring all the equipment back to the farm. Upon waking up in the morning, the first thing I wanted to do was start producing gold. However, for that, we needed a lot of resources, one of which was gas. I decided to begin with that. For this, we would need silage, which by the way should have already fermented. Let's go check. Approaching the pit and removing the tarp, I saw that the silage was fully ready. Wasting no time, we grab the auger and bring it over for loading the silage. Driving up with the tractor, we start the auger and wait until the trailer is fully loaded with silage. I think 5 trailers will be enough for the first run. Then, we head to the processing plant and unload it. After that, we return, move the auger deeper into the pit, and load again. We'll need to repeat this 3 or 4 more times. After bringing in the 5th trailer of silage, I decided to stop, as this amount would likely be enough for the first attempt at producing gold. While the silage is being processed into gas, we won't waste time, and we'll start with stone extraction. We leave the trailer by the silage pit and head to the quarry. Upon arriving, we park the tractor and head to our bulldozer. Walking by, I notice the massive piles of stone that have been extracted over time. We get into the bulldozer and start working. Slowly, we drive up to the pile of stone, lower the bucket, scoop up the material, then raise the bucket to the top position and carefully unload it into the trailer. I don't think this job will take long, as we have a new, modern bulldozer that can hold up to 3,000 liters of stone in the bucket. It's crucial to evenly distribute the stone in the trailer now to avoid issues during transportation. After some time, the truck's trailer was full, and it was time to take the stone to the production site. We leave the bulldozer behind, hop into the truck, and hit the road. On the way, I noticed that despite its age, this truck is quite speedy and handles its job well, even with nearly 40,000 liters of stone loaded into it. Upon arriving at the unloading site, we unload the stone and head back to the quarry. Once back, the first thing we do is dump the remaining stone from the bulldozer's bucket. After that, we go for another bucket of stone and once again load the stone onto the trailer, ensuring it's evenly distributed. The stone extraction process isn't as fast as we'd like. From all the stone piles, we can only fill a little over 2 trailers. A few minutes later, the second trailer of stone was fully loaded, so we head to the unloading site. After arriving and emptying the trailer's contents, we saw that the extraction process was underway. We then returned to the quarry. Since we ran out of stone and the gold still needs time, I decided to sell some strawberries. We get into the tractor, drive to the farm, hook up the trailer, and start loading the strawberries. We have quite a lot of them since the greenhouses are working well. After loading the full trailer of strawberries, we set off to the selling point. Upon arriving at the location, the first thing we do is remove the straps and then begin transferring the strawberry pallets onto the train's trailer. From selling an entire trailer of strawberries, we managed to earn just over $25,000. That's quite good since we have a lot of strawberries and they grow quickly, allowing us to make a solid profit. So we head back to the greenhouses, where we load up a second full trailer of strawberries and then set off to sell them. After selling all the strawberries, our balance was nearly $100,000. To increase this amount, I decided to sell some wheat flour that we produce at our mill. Since it wasn't dark yet, we headed over there. Upon arrival, we found that there wasn't a lot of flour, but we decided to sell what we had. After loading the trailer, though not fully, we set off to the selling point. From the sale, we earned $35,000, and that wasn't even a full trailer. It's incredible. Such big money for that amount of flour. We'll need to think about expanding this production. It's already evening, so we head back to the farm to rest. Tomorrow, we'll start working on the gold and see how much we can earn from it and whether it will be a profitable venture. Waking up early in the morning, we wasted no time and hopped into the pickup truck, heading straight to the gold production site. On the way, I couldn't hide my excitement. I was eager to find out how much gold we had managed to extract and how much we could earn. When we arrived, I was amazed. In front of me were 3 whole pallets of gold. We immediately started loading them, as we had already arranged the sale and the buyers were waiting. After securing the load, we set off for the meeting. Upon arriving, I saw 2 armed guards. Without any unnecessary conversation, I handed over the gold and in return received the payment. The deal earned us $75,000. We now had almost $200,000 in the account, and I decided to invest in expanding the quarry to increase gold extraction and, consequently, profits. Once back at the quarry, the first thing I did was begin the construction of 2 additional quarries to speed up the stone extraction process. This investment would pay off soon. We spent $30,000 on this. I also built a shelter for our bulldozer so it wouldn't be left out in the open and wouldn't block the road. That cost another $15,000. Gradually, our quarry is starting to thrive, and in the future, it will bring us hundreds of thousands of dollars. After finishing up at the quarry, I decided to deliver water to the production site, where it was needed for gold processing. We returned to the farm, took the tractor with the water tank, filled it at the hydrant, unloaded half of it at the gold production site, and brought the rest back to the farm. After arriving at the farm and distributing the remaining water among all the greenhouses, I decided to get back to transporting stone because the production site was in desperate need of it. Once at the quarry, I got into the bulldozer and immediately began loading stone into the truck's trailer, making sure it was evenly distributed. 10 minutes later, the trailer was full and I headed back. On the way, I noticed that we had nearly $150,000 in our account, and I decided it was time to upgrade our equipment, starting with our old tractor, which we had found at the beginning of our journey on the farm. Upon arrival, we sold the old tractor at the store and bought a new, smaller one for $50,000. Driving back to the farm, I immediately noticed that the new tractor was significantly faster. We also need to take care of the mill and provide it with the necessary resources. I had long planned to start processing corn into flour because we can get both the flour and byproducts to produce pig feed, which would be highly profitable. So we loaded a trailer of corn and took it to the mill. After unloading, it became clear that one trailer wouldn't be enough, as the mill's storage was empty, so we'll need to bring a couple more trailers of wheat. After unloading the wheat trailer, we were able to restart production. Leaving the trailer at the farm, I thought it would be useful to build a shelter for the combine harvester, which had been sitting out in the open for quite some time. Finding a suitable spot, we built a small shelter and moved the combine along with its header there. This cost us $13,000. After finishing that task, I decided to return to stone hauling. Getting into the tractor, I headed to the quarries where we loaded more stone. Once the trailer was full, I delivered the stone to the production site. After making the delivery, I decided to call it a day. So I returned to the loading site and from there drove the tractor back to the farm, where I settled in for some rest after a long day's work. Waking up in the morning, I decided it was time to focus on the fields. But first, since we have the money, we'll buy a new cultivator. So without wasting any time, I hop into our tractor and head to the store. Finding a suitable option, I decide to buy it, and it costs us $10,000. With the new cultivator, the work should go faster. From the store, we head straight to the field. Before starting the work, I want to finally get rid of the trees that have been standing in the middle of the field and are often in the way. For this, we'll need another tractor with a trailer to load all the logs and branches. After cutting down 2 trees, we transport the logs to our sawmill. Next, we hire a worker and begin cultivating the fields. While our worker is busy with the cultivation, we will go get water for our greenhouses. When we arrive at the fire hydrant, we open the tank lid and start filling it with water. While the tank is filling, I thought that since we're already here and the gold production is nearby, we could also take some water there. First, we head to the gold storage, fill it to the maximum, 8,000 liters. Then we top up the tank and head to the greenhouses, where we distribute all the water among them. After that, we leave the tank, grab the old cultivator, and go to help the worker. Although my cultivator is 5 times narrower and offers only limited help, the work will still go a bit faster. After working for a while, I realized that progress would be slow at this pace, so I decided to move the second tractor and work with just one. Leaving the second tractor at the hangar, I returned to the first one and continued working with it. The new large cultivator significantly sped up the process, and things were going much faster compared to using 2 tractors with old cultivators. By noon, all the fields were prepared. We'll put off planting crops for now. First, I want to sell all the accumulated resources. First, we start with the flour at the mill. We load it up and take it to the sales point. We earned $75,000 from the flour. This is great news. It seems the demand for flour has increased and we got lucky. Next, we return to the farm for the strawberries. It's their turn now. After loading them, we head to the sales point and make another $13,000. Back at the farm, I decided it was time to fetch another batch of gold. So we take the pickup and head to the gold storage. Upon arrival, we find 4 pallets of bars waiting for us. After loading them, we head to the sales point and find that buyers are already there, ready to take all the gold. We sold the gold and earned $100,000 from the deal, an incredible success. On the way back to the farm, I was very pleased with the results of the day, as our balance now stands at nearly $300,000. Now it's time to rest, and tomorrow we'll focus on the fields. Early in the morning, right after waking up, we waste no time and start working. We take 2 tractors. One is equipped with a corn planter and the other with a wheat seeder. We hire a worker and, along with him, head to the fields to begin the work. This season, I plan to plant more corn since I intend to build a pigsty. At our mill, corn is turned into flour, and the remaining corn is used as pig feed. While I'm explaining this, the fields have already been fully planted. After parking the tractors, we head to our chicken coop to start construction on the pigsty across from it. The construction cost us $90,000. We also buy a couple of dozen pigs and 2 boars, which costs almost $20,000 more. Since the pig feed isn't ready yet, we will feed them wheat. We take a tractor with a feed trailer, fill it with wheat from our bunker, and then head to distribute it into the feeders. Additionally, I've long wanted to update our forage harvester, which is quite old and no longer practical. So we head to the store and purchase a new forage harvester for $100,000. After that, we return to the farm and park it next to our other harvester. It's good that I built a spacious shed. That's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Goodbye!